Hello, and welcome to our latest episode of What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Sharonbrock, here with Chris Shooker of Digital Horizons, and it is time to go down the Hardwired Lutron shades rabbit hole.
Okay.
Why is it the best way to go if you're going to do motorized shades, and what are the limitations?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's the best way.
Sure.
Because in every installation, we're always trying to help our clients weigh the value and performance to cost ratio. I mean, if someone came to us and had infinite money and there was no concern, and you know that's what we're discussing or the context of it, then hardwiring is definitely the way to do it. It takes a little bit of effort. It takes a little bit of planning, and in the end, it does work in a lot of ways better than battery does. Not so much that it's a requirement to do, except for a few small instances. But in general, the benefit of never having to rely on batteries, having more or less instant and constant communication with the shade over the low voltage wiring, and then depending on the shade family that you're in, you can end up with a smaller footprint to your shade because you don't have to have they get manufactured without sometimes a compartment that is external to the shade for the batteries in that case.
Yep.
And so it functionally, I've not run into many instances where they operate any quieter. Lutron shades are if you've had motorized shades in your house before and you've not had Lutron before, you literally can't appreciate how much quieter it is. It's so quiet that and it depends on the line, because in some cases the higher end Palladiom uses a better motor, and they're putting their best product in the high end line. When you're in that realm of product, which it operates the same, battery or wired, you hear the friction of the fabric more than you hear the motor. I've had, it sounds stupid, but I'm getting goosebumps because it's one of those things where, when the prime example that I love giving people is, if you have someone who's a light sleeper in bed, the shades will not be what wakes them up. It'll be the fabric. It's going to be you reaching for the remote that wakes them up. They advertise that and I don't quote me on 100% what this number is, but it's somewhere between 35 and 38 decibels of volume. And if you've ever heard a small refrigerator compressor, they're somewhere in that 40 to 45 range. Okay. And Lutron won't tell you this. They tell us, and I'm not telling you, obviously, that they actually operate quieter than that if you were to carefully measure it. But for them to be safe in their marketing efforts,
of course,
they state what is expected and reasonable. So in the real world with certain fabrics, they're probably in the 32 to 35 range in how much sound they produce, which most people don't understand the value of that number being that low. Yep. But it literally is silent. And so you compare it to, and I have utmost respect for Hunter Douglas. I think they make a great product and meet a lot of needs correctly. But even when you compare it to something like Hunter Douglas, it's still that much quieter. And so anyways, the reason I was making that point is the wired or battery, they more or less operate the same in that regard. So
one of the other advantages of a hardwired system that I can imagine is, and we've kind of talked about this before, is that you can connect it up like with a Crestron or a Control 4 system. Yeah. Does that mean, and how we've talked about in lighting before, you can set scenes and such, can you do the same thing with your shades?
You can. And there isn't a steadfast rule that says that in order to do those things, it has to be hardwired.
Sure.
It's just that the methods of doing so are just that much more reliable. We definitely can integrate and do integrate battery-operated shades with Control4 just over. We have to use Lutron's hub and talk to it, and then it talks to the shade. So like there's ways of doing it.
Sure.
But it's and you can do the scenes. One of the cool things that I love all about Lutron is when we install their shades and they have a fairly inexpensive hub that can get installed with it. We can tell that hub where the shades are in the home, like what side of the home they're on, north, east, southwest.
Okay.
And we can activate a feature that will, when the sun is on that side of the home, automatically lower the shades.
Huh.
And so if one of your primary concerns is the preservation of hardwood floors, or maybe you have some expensive floor coverings or rugs or
Sure.
artwork, you name it, when you want to keep UV off of those things, obviously drawing shades or blinds or drapes, is paramount, and Lutron can do that automatically.
Probably even like temperature control to a
Correct.
certain degree.
Absolutely.
More sun, that room gets
Yep.
warm, kicks the AC on harder.
Correct.
Kind of helping control with
Yeah.
all those systems
Yep.
and ensuring the health of the home
Correct.
in that way.
Yep.
Are there any disadvantages of doing a hardwired system?
Primarily just cost.
Okay.
When we have to run the wire itself isn't terribly expensive, but for every individual motor that's in the system,
Sure.
we have to run a specific wire to the shades. We have to connect that wire to the shades, which is done in kind of a really tight compartment, so it's always time consuming.
Yeah.
And when we're no longer utilizing batteries and we're powering it remotely, we have to provide the power in another location. And so the shades don't operate on your standard 120 volt wall outlets. They do in a way that the power gets converted before it goes to them. Depending on the shade, you're going to operate on 12 to 35 volts. And so there has to be a transformer to
Sure.
convert the power. And so if we're doing a home or business where there's 10 or 20 or 30 shades, we install what are called power panels. They're the most efficient way of converting and powering a bunch of shades. And then, all of that infrastructure and setup and stuff, it's just the only downside is cost. It takes a little bit longer to put in, but it's not something that ever delays projects or anything. It's more time intensive on our part.
And we kind of had mentioned this again in another series, but if you have new construction, that is one of the optimal times
Yes.
to do that, because the walls are already
Correct.
open and can sort of save in some of that cost.
Correct.
So if you're in a new construction situation and
Yes.
you're thinking about it, please don't wait until the drywall goes the rest of the way up,
Yeah.
right? Because that'll save a lot of time and energy too
will.
in putting them in at that point.
If you don't get it wired, then we're just going to recommend a battery shade, and it's the amount of effort that you would go through to try to get wired to a shade location. And I'll explain a scenario where it might make sense to do this, but in general, we would just say you need a battery shade. And so
Sure.
the exclusion to that is, and another reason why wired works well that just kind of popped into my head is, there's in a lot of cases shades that are very much out of reach.
Yeah.
And so if you don't want to climb up a 12 or 14 or 16 foot ladder to get, we live in an area where there's a lot of really great views to be brought
Yes.
in. And so it's very common in a great room or a primary bedroom for there to be 12, 16, 18 foot, 20 foot windows, bay windows, sometimes even larger. I've been in homes where we have a 30 foot window. And when you have a shade that's so far up, you probably want to avoid doing battery in that case, just because of the precarious nature that's required.
Yeah.
And so situations like that, I would just come short of saying wired is necessary. You can still do battery, but you don't want to be responsible for changing batteries in a situation like
Right. Yeah. I have a family member who they have sort of like 3 stories worth of those, and they didn't go with a Lutron product, but their first 2 levels have the wired, but they just didn't.
They forgot about the upper ones.
Yeah.
Didn't think it would be needed or something.
I think so.
Yep.
I think so. So it never gets completely dark
Right.
in there, which, maybe that has its advantages or disadvantages. I don't know, but
It's nice to have the flexibility so at the time that you want it, you have the ability to do so. the batteries are, in the end, batteries are always going to fail when you least want them to.
I know it.
And, if there's something that you rely on for privacy or security or temperature UV control,
Sure.
you want them to work all the time.
Yep.
And so when you have it hardwired, those aren't things that you don't have to be worried concerned about. I mean, you might have a breaker that trips or something, but those things are easy to diagnose.
And is there like a built-in or backup kind of power system? So like, let's say your power goes out, your shades don't automatically pop open. Like you're not stuck in that situation.
So if you have no power, they're going to stay in the state that they're in.
Got it.
But yeah, you absolutely can install either a battery backup, or what's most common, I would say, in a home that might have motorized Lutron shades, is they probably have a generator.
Sure.
And so then if the concern is that you want to make sure that you can either open or close the shades if power to go out, they don't draw a lot of power.
Got it.
So to tell the electrician that you want to make sure that the circuit that hopefully, or maybe not, is dedicated to running the shades is on the
generator
is on the
whatever.
Breaker on the generator panel, then you'd be able to
tell it that.
Keep them allow them to go up and down if you don't have main power.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. That's a lot of really great information to consider when you're thinking about why would you or why wouldn't you. There's certainly more advantages than disadvantages to doing it. So if you're curious about it, they absolutely can get you a demonstration, come into the Experience Center, see it, see all the fabrics. I mean, that's a, topic we haven't even touched of those. But coming into the Experience Center and actually seeing how they work and run is definitely worth your time to do that. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you at our next episode.